Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth sharing. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. Today, I want to share with you a book titled First Impressions. Why choose this book, you may wonder. Well, we all understand the importance of social interactions and hope to leave a positive impression on others when we meet them for the first time. We aspire to effortlessly blend into a new environment or gain acceptance within a group. However, we also recognize that not everyone possesses an outgoing, witty, or humorous personality that makes them feel comfortable and confident when meeting new people. Many people today identify with introversion or social anxiety, preferring the comfort of home over social gatherings. The fear of crowded places and the anxiety of striking up a conversation with someone can lead to countless internal struggles. Online conversations may be lively, but in-person meetings often become awkward, leaving us unsure of how to proceed. This has led to the term awkward small talk. Some may say, I want to make a good impression, but I am introverted and prefer solitude. Social situations make me uncomfortable. The truth is, social prowess is not always innate, and very few individuals are entirely extroverted. We simply need to learn some basic social skills to reduce our discomfort, boost our confidence, and minimize mistakes when interacting with others. A small shortcut in social interactions is to create a positive first impression. When someone has a favorable first impression of you, further interactions become much easier, which is a fundamental aspect of social success. So, is there a way for those of us who struggle with social anxiety to effortlessly leave a good first impression? Absolutely. It's not as difficult as it may seem, and that's why we're sharing this book today. First Impressions was co-authored by American writers Valerie White and Desmarais. Both Desmarais and White hold doctorates and are the founders of the First Impressions consulting company in the United States. Many of the examples in this book are derived from real-life cases accumulated over the years at their consulting firm. The book consists of approximately 190,000 words, and I will spend about 20 minutes discussing its three main topics. 1. The formation process of first impressions. 2. How to create a positive first impression through your words and actions. 3. How to recover when your initial impression falls short. Through this book, we can learn how to leave a positive first impression, making social interactions more enjoyable and benefiting both our personal and professional lives. This book differs from typical psychology texts, as it doesn't just present abstract concepts but rather provides practical techniques and methods based on a wealth of real-world examples. The authors aim to help readers understand how their image is perceived by others and use that knowledge to improve themselves, ultimately presenting their best selves when meeting someone for the first time. First, let me share a story about a friend of mine. She had dreamed of becoming a flight attendant since childhood, but she studied accounting in college and had little knowledge of the aviation industry. After graduating, she didn't give up on her dream and decided to try her luck by applying for a campus recruitment program at an airline. Surprisingly, she passed all the rigorous assessments and received a job offer from the airline, becoming the only graduate in her batch who didn't have a background in aviation. When I asked her how she managed to succeed through multiple rounds of interviews, she told me that in the first interview, she sincerely expressed her lifelong desire to become a flight attendant. She also mentioned that, as a Christian, she had always believed that with genuine sincerity and dedicated effort towards her goal, she could achieve her dreams. Coincidentally, the lead interviewer was also a devout Christian, and they bonded over their shared faith and aspirations. She believed that perhaps it was Jesus who had helped her, but I believe that what truly helped her was her outstanding performance in that initial interview. Her sincerity and shared beliefs with the interviewer left a strong positive impression, which paved the way for her success in subsequent rounds and, ultimately, achieving her dream. This story illustrates that the power of a first impression should not be underestimated, as it holds unexpected opportunities and connections. Next, let's take a closer look at what a first impression is and how it is formed. In the book, Psychology of First Impressions, the author defines a first impression as the initial feeling we give to others. When we create a positive initial feeling, we leave a good first impression. Conversely, if our initial impression isn't favorable, it may tarnish how others perceive us. The author likens the process of forming a first impression to a filter. We gather important information about others through their appearance, actions, and words, allowing us to make an initial judgment. While this judgment may not always be entirely objective, it is crucial. In fact, it's so important that, in subsequent interactions, if a person's behavior aligns with their initial impression, we often say, "I knew she was like this from the moment I first saw her." Even if the person's subsequent behavior differs significantly, people tend to stick with their initial impression. Therefore, leaving a good first impression is crucial for everyone. It can help you secure a job offer, make like-minded friends, or even lead to a meaningful relationship. So, how can you create a favorable first impression during your initial social interactions? The author shares a secret: pay attention to the other person's feelings. Here, the other person's feelings refer not only to how they feel about you but, more importantly, how they feel about themselves during this social interaction. When they feel satisfied and happy, the first impression they form of you is likely to be positive. How can you make the other person feel good about themselves and, in turn, leave a positive impression? The answer is simple: provide them with social benefits. In this book, the author mainly categorizes social benefits into 4 types: appreciation, commonality, inspiration, and encouragement. Appreciation and commonality are concepts most people can easily understand. They involve sincerely complimenting the other person and finding topics of mutual interest to discuss. Here, I'll explain the other 2 concepts, inspiration and encouragement. Inspiration doesn't mean motivating someone to improve as we usually interpret it. Instead, it's about actively engaging in a conversation, expressing genuine interest in the topics the other person is discussing, and inspiring them by showing your enthusiasm. Encouragement, in this context, means providing the other person with new ideas or perspectives during the conversation. It means allowing them to gain something valuable from the interaction, which can be helpful in their work, life, or personal growth. When we can offer these 4 types of social benefits during a social interaction, we are more likely to leave a positive first impression. Similarly, when we receive these social benefits from someone else, we tend to have a favorable opinion of them. The principle is straightforward because everyone desires recognition and wants to feel valued. For example, let's consider a popular hip-hop music performance. Suppose you and a friend initially discuss hip-hop, exchange thoughts on the show, and share your favorite artists. After a while, the conversation may start to plateau. However, if you can delve into the history of hip-hop music or explain why the rap genre was once underground, providing deeper insights, you'll offer your friend more value and inspire them to think more deeply about hip-hop music. In this conversation, you'd be providing your friend with commonality, encouragement, and inspiration. In return, your friend, besides finding common interests, will appreciate your knowledge and enthusiasm. As a result, both of you will have formed a better first impression of each other. Therefore, social interactions are like a transaction. When we give as many social benefits as possible, we tend to receive a positive first impression in return. So, how can you provide as many social benefits as possible to the other person during your first meeting? We will discuss this from 3 aspects: body language, conversational language, and your responsive feedback. First, let's talk about body language. Imagine this scenario: you're in a group interview at a major company, and it's the first time you and the interviewers are meeting. Each person takes turns speaking. Now, suppose that while you're speaking, you notice one of the interviewers looking at you, nodding in agreement, and even leaning slightly towards you. Wouldn't you feel more confident in that moment? The answer is undoubtedly yes. In this situation, you receive appreciation and encouragement, and you can tell from the interviewer's body language that they approve of your response and want to hear more. Similarly, during our initial conversations with others, we can convey our attitude through subtle body language cues. In body language, facial expressions are the most obvious. First and foremost, maintain eye contact throughout the conversation. As the saying goes, the eyes are the windows to the soul. The messages conveyed through eye contact can convey whether you respect, disdain, trust, or doubt the other person. I remember when I was studying abroad, I had to interview a local curator for a news assignment. We had a great conversation, and I collected a lot of material. However, when I submitted the 3-minute video, I didn't receive the high grade I expected. My professor's feedback stated, "Your language is grammatically correct, and your approach is good. The news material is also okay." However, I noticed at least 3 instances in the 3-minute video where you didn't maintain eye contact with the interviewee and instead looked at the camera. This is considered very impolite behavior toward your interview subject. My professor's feedback left a lasting impression on me and made me realize the importance of eye contact during conversations. It conveys respect for the other person and your attitude toward the conversation topic. In addition to eye contact, the author emphasizes the importance of smiling. As we often say, a smiling face is a lucky face. I believe this phrase applies not only to women but to everyone. A smile can make people feel welcome, earn their trust, and leave a positive impression. Because everyone appreciates positivity, and no one enjoys looking at a gloomy or downcast face. Moving on from facial expressions, let's discuss body movements. Compared to facial expressions, body movements are less overt. They don't require deliberate effort but should be natural. Natural gestures often highlight your attentiveness and sincerity. Within body movements, the author mainly focuses on 3 actions: nodding, leaning towards the other person, and shaking hands. Think back to the group interview scenario we mentioned earlier. 2 subtle body language cues were nodding and leaning towards the other person. These actions often help bridge the gap during initial conversations and provide the other person with appreciation and encouragement. When the other person senses your approval through your actions, they feel a sense of self-worth and are more likely to form a positive first impression of you. Apart from these 2 fundamental actions, there's one action we all engage in during initial meetings: shaking hands. In most countries, a handshake is a sign of respect and friendliness during first encounters. The author emphasizes the importance of initiating a handshake, especially in relatively formal settings. Additionally, for women, the author suggests not being too reserved when shaking hands. A firm handshake signifies sincerity and confidence, which can leave a favorable first impression. In addition to facial expressions and body movements, the author highlights the importance of attire. When attending events, invitations often come with specific dress code requirements. Depending on the occasion, you'll need to choose appropriate attire. However, regardless of the dress code, it's crucial to adhere to the principle of choosing what suits you best. In life, we often encounter 2 extremes: overdressing, making ourselves look extravagant, or being too casual and neglecting our external appearance. Both of these extremes can negatively impact the first impression others have of us. Apart from appropriateness, the author suggests focusing on style and matching techniques when dressing. I won't go into too much detail here. What we've discussed is how to convey as many social benefits as possible through body language to leave a better first impression. Next, let's talk about the second way to provide social benefits to others: conversational language. There are 2 key points here: how to structure the conversation and how to ask questions. How should we kickstart a conversation during the first meeting? The author provides several examples, and the pattern is summarized as person plus environment plus self-introduction. When you initiate a conversation using this pattern, it's easy to provide the other person with a common ground as a social benefit. Since you both find yourselves in the same environment during your first encounter, you can naturally begin the conversation by discussing the shared context. For instance, today's event seems interesting. How did you hear about it? Once the conversation is initiated, it's a good practice to offer a brief self-introduction, as it can instill a sense of trust and help the other person get to know you a bit better. This can prevent them from being too guarded and reluctant to engage in further communication. Next, you move into the main phase of the conversation. With the common ground established earlier, you can delve into more profound and broader topics. During this stage, it's essential to genuinely appreciate and show interest in the subject matter. This is where you provide the social benefits of appreciation and encouragement. Finally, you should gracefully segue into thought-provoking topics that allow the other person to gain insights and benefits, in other words, inspiring them. However, you don't need to overdo this final step, as it might come across as insincere. In our daily lives, we often encounter situations where a conversation starts off well but quickly loses momentum. This can be awkward. To prevent this, it's important to master the art of conversation, which includes the skill of asking questions. The way we frame our questions can impact the flow of a conversation. Closed-ended questions, which can be answered with a simple yes or no, and lack strong connections, can lead to awkward silences. For example, a TV host interviewing a popular singer once asked questions like, "Do you think long hair or short hair looks better on you? When is your concert? Remember to invite me." Each question could be answered with a few words, and there wasn't much cohesion between them. These are examples of closed-ended questions. On the other hand, open-ended questions, like, will there be any new elements in your concert? Are you planning to invite any surprise guests, allow the other person to provide more extensive responses, which can greatly improve the conversation's atmosphere. In terms of conversational language, the author also advises against bringing up two types of topics during the first meeting: sensitive subjects related to religion, beliefs, and politics, and mundane personal matters. The former is often too serious and can touch on fundamental principles, while the latter is overly private and can bore the other person. So far, we've discussed two ways to provide as many social benefits as possible: body language and conversational skills. Finally, let's talk about how to provide a positive response to leave a good first impression. In the previous discussions, we mainly assumed that you're the proactive party in the conversation. However, it's not always the case that you're the one leading the discussion. What should you do when you're the one being asked questions? In your responses, you should offer positive reinforcement through your actions, which aligns with the body language we discussed earlier. Now, let's focus on what to pay attention to in verbal communication. If the questions asked are topics you know about and are interested in, it's relatively easy to continue the conversation. Keep your responses concise and well organized, avoiding long-winded replies that might bore the other person. However, if you're asked about a topic you're unfamiliar with, it's polite to admit your lack of knowledge while expressing your interest in learning more. Encourage the other person to share additional information. Some people may try to change the subject when confronted with unfamiliar topics, but the author advises against this. Instead, be straightforward about not knowing much about the subject and request the other person's insights. This approach not only prevents you from coming across as evasive but also provides the social benefits of appreciation and inspiration to the other person. It's a win-win. Now that we've covered how to provide social benefits to others through your words and actions, thus leaving a better first impression, you should have more confidence in your first meetings. However, even with all these strategies, there's no guarantee of a flawless first impression. If, unfortunately, you mess up your first impression, what should you do? This is what we'll explore in our final section. In this book, the author provides two solutions. 1. Acknowledge your mistake and apologize. This approach is for when you're eager to rectify a bad first impression. Since everyone can make mistakes, it's essential to have the humility to admit them. So, directly express your apologies to the other person, acknowledging that your unintentional actions led to an unpleasant first meeting. Promise to be more attentive in the future. This is not embarrassing. It shows your sincerity and gives the other person a chance to revise their initial impression of you, with renewed expectations for your future interactions. 2. Embrace your mistake and let time speak. Although this approach may not yield quick results like the first one, it can earn you long-lasting goodwill. For instance, consider a popular actress who, when starting her career, faced criticism for her inexperienced acting, vacant expressions, and negative comments suggesting she didn't belong in the industry. Instead of defending herself, she embraced self-deprecating humor and even made jokes about her performance in interviews to lighten the atmosphere. Over time, people found her more affable, and their initial harsh impressions softened. Additionally, she shared photos of her fitness journey, promoting a healthy and active lifestyle, and diligently worked on improving her acting skills. Gradually, her public image underwent a transformation, turning many critics into fans, earning her the nickname Abs Goddess, and even inspiring a fitness trend. This is what the author means by, embrace your mistake and let time speak. In other words, when you don't make a great first impression, instead of fretting, focus on self-improvement and gradually change others' initial perceptions over time, gaining longer-lasting trust and affection. In conclusion, to make a good first impression, you should express sincerity through your words and actions, providing social benefits to others so they feel valued in your interactions. However, don't overly fixate on your initial impression because it's not absolute. Imperfect first impressions can be amended through consistent efforts and attention to detail in subsequent interactions. Similarly, when assessing others based on their first impressions, try to maintain objectivity and avoid making sweeping judgments. Everyone makes mistakes, and it's important to approach them with a forgiving heart. That wraps up the main content of today's discussion. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth spreading, opening the door to a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.